Hi, so I, 40M, have a daughter, Jade, 17F, and I have had a somewhat strained relationship with her in the past few years. Jade's mom, my ex-wife, passed away 9 years ago. We had been high school sweethearts and had married right out of college, but after that, things got rough between us and we had already been divorced for 2 years when she passed away from a seizure in her sleep. At the time, she had been splitting her time and living with both of us for half the month, and unfortunately, when she passed away, Jade had been staying with her. I think something just snapped inside my daughter the day that it happened. Since then, she has never been the same, and she has even been diagnosed with clinical depression because she went into shock the day that her mother died. She and her mom had always been very close, so I was not surprised that it happened, but it pained me to see her like this. She used to be a cheerful and fun-loving kid, but after her mom passed away, she shut everybody out and got really irritable if anybody tried to talk to her, and sometimes, I would even see her talking to herself and stuff like that. So I had to take her to a psychiatrist and they told us that she had depression and had developed severe anxiety, which was why she was not even able to sleep at night. So they prescribed her a bunch of meds and I made her have her medicines, religiously, no matter how much she protested and insisted that she did not need any of this and that she was just fine. I was grieving the loss of my ex-wife and I did not want anything bad to happen to my daughter, so for the next couple of years, I was completely devoted to taking care of her and making sure that she was fine. And within a few years, she got better and was back to normal again. I was so happy for her and I thought that maybe I could finally go back to living life because by then, I had made my peace with my ex-wife passing away as well. I did not exactly start actively dating, but one of my friends told me about his cousin who had called me after she had seen me at his wedding back then. And he gave her my number after I said that I was fine with it and started talking, and that woman is now my wife, Carol, 36F. Initially, we would only speak to each other by text and occasionally flirt with each other. I had been very upfront about what had happened in my life and how my priority was always going to be my daughter, and she seemed to be fine with it. After 3 months of just texting each other, we finally decided to meet and we went out on several dates afterward. Finally, after almost 6 months of dating, I brought her home to introduce her to Jade and I thought that she would be fine with it since she was doing much better, but unfortunately, Jade was very unhappy about this new relationship. She immediately made it very obvious that she was not happy since as soon as I introduced her to Carol and told her that this was somebody that I had been seeing, she made a face and told me that her mother was barely cold in her grave, and I had already started seeing other people. That was the first comment that she had made, and when I told her that it was not appropriate to say that when somebody was visiting us for the first time, she told me that she didn't care and went back to her room. Needless to say, the first meeting did not go pretty well, and after Carol left, I had to seriously reprimand Jade, but even then, she told me that she did not like Carol and she did not approve of our relationship, so she was going to continue behaving this way and was going to make sure that she did not last with me. We got into a fight that day, but eventually, I had to make up with her because she's my daughter. Luckily, Carol was very understanding about all of this and told me that she could understand that Jade was going through a tough stage and she didn't take that kind of behavior to heart, but she would keep her distance from Jade from this point on, and I respected that. That was a really long time ago, and since then Carol and I have been together. After dating for 4 years, we finally decided to get married, and now, we have been married for almost 2 years. We love each other, and honestly, the only person who had a problem with this relationship was Jade. She used to be really rude and impolite to Carol in the beginning and would make horrible remarks about her whenever she would come over in the initial stages of our relationship. But when I told her that I would ground her and take away her phone if she continued to do that, she started behaving herself a bit. But she would still shoot her nasty looks and constantly tell me that she hated her after every single visit. After we announced our engagement, she had another breakdown and we had a big fight where she accused me of betraying her and said that she was never going to speak to me again. But then, we made up because we obviously had to, but she still refused to attend the wedding. So things have not been good, and I have had a lot of problems trying to balance my life and keeping both Jade and Carol happy. I'm just very thankful that Carol is such an understanding partner and she never takes offense at any of the things that Jade says because she's just that forgiving and kind-hearted. Jade is just that difficult to be around, but for the past couple of years, she has mostly just kept her mouth shut and kept her problems with Carol to herself. She doesn't interact with her stepmom at all, and even though they live in the same house and have been for the past 4 years, they literally never speak to each other if they can help. Carol does occasionally speak to her as politely as she can whenever she absolutely needs to, but Jade doesn't even look at her and pretends like she doesn't even exist. And I've made my peace with it. This is as good as it's going to get, and I can't help it. Now, almost a month ago, Carol and I threw a party to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. We invited a couple of our friends and family members and some coworkers. We were having the event at home, just like our first wedding anniversary, so Jade was there. On our first anniversary, Carol and I had a similar party, but Jade had refused to be part of it and had gone over to a friend's house, but this time, she decided to stay. I was kind of skeptical about having her there for the event, and in the end, she proved that I was right to doubt her intentions. Once all the guests had arrived, everybody was socializing and drinking and having a lot of fun. And then, all of a sudden, Jade announced that she wanted to make a speech in our honor. Carol and I were shocked, and so was everybody else, because I think pretty much everyone knew that Jade did not like my wife, and she had proven it once and for all when she refused to attend my wedding. So for her to announce that she wanted to make a speech, I instantly realized that this could not be something good. I tried to laugh it off and told her that it would not be necessary, but she insisted on it. And eventually, we did not want to create a scene, and so, we decided to give her a chance, and I still regret that. She first talked about how she had never had a good relationship with Carol, and we all knew that anyway, so it was not a surprise. But when she said that she wanted to work on that and build a relationship with her, we were all kind of taken aback, but I was still feeling like there was something more to come. I tried to get her to rush through her speech, but she took her own sweet time, and eventually, she announced that the reason she wanted to work on her relationship with Carol was because she knew that she was always going to be an only child and she really wanted the inheritance. But since I was literally under Carol's thumb, she wanted to make sure that she did not end up losing out on anything because of her bad relationship with Carol. Then, she went on to elaborate on the only child comment, saying that she was just lucky that Carol was never going to be able to have any children of her own since she had recently found out that she was infertile. And then she thanked Carol for making sure that she would not have any competition and ended her speech, and then, she went into her room, leaving all of us shocked by what she had just done. It's true, a few months ago, Carol had found out that she was infertile. We had been actively trying to get pregnant for almost a year but did not have any success, so we decided to get ourselves tested and found out that she was infertile. In a way, we counted as lucky because she was past 35, so it might have been risky for her as well, but even then, she was very upset because she really wanted to have a child, and so did I, but we made our peace with it and had been trying to get over it. We never bothered to hide it or be secretive about it when we were around Jade, so she had been aware that last year, Carol had been very upset around the end of the year because she had found out this devastating news. But we had never ever expected her to bring something like this up while we were having our anniversary party, and as soon as she had delivered that speech and gone back to her room, Carol broke down into tears, and everybody started trying to calm her down. Most of the guests left a little while after that because it just got too awkward, and I decided to drive Carol to her parents' home so she could live with them for a few days while I dealt with the situation with Jade, because what she had done was unacceptable and a really low blow to my wife. We had tolerated her disrespectful behavior for a really long time, but just because I love her, it does not make her entitled to disrespect other people whom I love. I was furious, and as soon as I got back home after driving Carol to her parents' place, I told Jade that we needed to talk, and she pretended like she didn't even care, but I made it very clear to her that she had to either apologize to Carol and everybody else who had been present at the party and go back to therapy, or she could give up any hopes of being able to go to college in the fall because I would not be funding her, and I would also ask her to leave as soon as she turned 18. I made it very clear to her that she only had two choices. She could either do the right thing or she could lose me forever. She didn't even think about what she wanted. Instantly, she told me that she didn't even need me or the family because she was leaving, and that's the reason why she had decided to make that speech, so she could go out with a bang and make sure that we knew exactly how low her opinion of Jade was. When I asked her where she was going to go, she told me that she was going to live with her aunt, my ex-wife's younger sister. That's when I found out that apparently, for the last couple of weeks, she had been in touch with her aunt, and that was bad news because my ex-sister-in-law, Alice, 35F, was the worst. She had always been insanely jealous of my ex-wife and had even confessed her love to me, just for attention, the day before our wedding, and that's how she ended up getting thrown out of the family. A few years after we got married, her parents did forgive her, but my ex-wife did not, and I've had nothing to do with that woman for I don't even know how long. But I guess she has still held onto that grudge that she had against me, and she was using my daughter against me, which is insane. I tried to tell Jade that she was not allowed to go to her aunt or even speak to her, but she told me that she was going to be an adult in a couple of months anyway, so she did not need to live with me. And then, she said that she wished I had been the one to pass away instead of her mother, and that really hurt. So after that comment, I decided that I would let her go, because if she wanted to make a mistake like this, she was free to do so, and she would face the consequences of her actions on her own. After she left, I brought my wife back home and we had a discussion about whatever had happened. Then it was my turn to break down because Jade had been really hurtful to me and to her, but we had to let her go, and it was very difficult, but we made peace with it. Now, almost 1 month has passed, and it has been very difficult for me to not try and care about my daughter, but she has made her own decisions and I can't control her anymore, and neither do I wish to. But, 2 days back, I received a phone call from her and Jade was in tears. I answered the call as soon as possible, and when I heard her crying, I got really panicked and asked her what had happened, and she told me that apparently, her Aunt Alice had initially promised her that she was going to take care of her and make sure that she was able to go to college so that she wouldn't have to rely on me anymore. But for the past month, ever since she had left home and moved in with her aunt, she had been treated like a servant in her house and was made to do all the work. Apparently her aunt was in pain and couldn't do anything for herself. But she had still been doing it because she expected her to have enough funds to send her to college like she had been promised, and she had decided to have a conversation about that with her aunt that day. However, she had been told that she didn't actually have the money, she just intended to help her with taking out the student loan, and even then, she would have to find somebody to be a co-signer for her. And college is supposed to start in just a couple of months and she's already been accepted into the college of her choice, so she needs to find the money and that's why she called me now. She wants to come back and realize that she made a horrible mistake by trusting her aunt. But instead of just taking her back in, I told her that what I had said earlier still stands and she has to apologize to Carol before I take her back, and now she's pissed because she thinks that I don't care about her at all. So Ida for telling my daughter that she has to apologize to her stepmom before I bring her back home? Update 1. Hey, so I brought my daughter back home. And yes, she did apologize to Carol. Jade reached out to Carol a couple of days after I told her that I would only let her back in and support her financially if she apologized from the bottom of her heart, and I don't know if her apology was sincere or not, but she did what I asked her, so now she's back. She has been very distant from both of us since she has been home, but Carol is pretty much used to this kind of treatment, not me though. However, I am willing to cut her some slack because apparently, for the past month, she has been working really hard at her aunt's house. Coming to that, she told me that her Aunt Alice had reached out to her on social media and said that they had never been formally introduced to each other because our families did not like her much, but she wanted to get to know her sister's only child, and that's how they got to talking. I read the messages and she had been totally brainwashing and manipulating Jade to turn against us, and she had been putting all these ideas into her head. I found it really disturbing because it's been years since I've even spoken to this lady and she still seems to have it in for me. I haven't been able to speak to Jade much as I said earlier, but from whatever she told me, Alice really still dislikes me. I guess it's because for those couple of years when she was not a part of the family, she was living on her own, and I think she had to suffer a lot, financially. She was never able to go to college, and by the time her family started speaking to her again, she already had a job and she didn't feel like rejoining college. So she just stuck to working, and now, since she doesn't have a degree, her options are pretty limited, and I guess she holds me responsible for it. Even though it's really not my fault, she was in her mid-20s when her family started speaking to her again, so she could have easily made the choice of going to college and getting a degree, but she chose not to. I don't think that's my fault. And I don't think it's my fault that her family cut her off. It was because of her own behavior that it happened. Anyway, that's all I got out of Jade, and I'm just glad that she's back now. Even though she's keeping to herself, I know that she feels really bad about whatever has happened, and I know that she's going to try and be better in the future. I can just feel it. Some people are going to criticize my choice of letting her back into the family, but she's my daughter, I can't let her go. And honestly, not even Carol seems to have a problem with it, because I knew that if she did, she would have communicated that to me. We know that she's a troubled kid and she has agreed to go back to therapy, so we're hoping that it's going to help her, and even when she goes away to college, she has agreed to continue the therapy sessions on video calls. As for the college funds, because of her behavior, I have told her that I'm going to pay for the last few semesters, but for the first few, she's going to have to figure out where herself, and she was very cool about it. She said that she accepted that decision since she knew she had been horrible to deal with in the past, and it was a fair punishment, so she's gonna have to either take out a loan or work through college like everybody else. But if her behavior improves and she's able to fix her relationship with us, I'm gonna take care of the last couple of semesters. I think it's a fair deal and she's already accepted it. Now, all we have to do is wait and watch if she's actually going to be better now or if it's all talk. Update 2. Hello. So it's been a couple of months since my last update, and I'm really happy to tell you guys that things have been going great between Jade and me. Even Jade and Carol have been getting along quite well, which is very shocking. A couple of weeks after I posted that last update and Jade had returned home, things started getting better because Jade started putting more effort into speaking to us. For the first couple of weeks came back, she was very distant and did not speak to anybody properly. But one day, while Jade was at home, I was at work, and Carol had a day off. The two of them spent the day together at home, and when I came back, I was very surprised to see them, laughing and chilling on the couch like old friends. Jade told me later that night that she had a fun time with Carol and regretted the fact that she hadn't even put in an effort to get along with this woman in the past just because of her own preconceived notions, but now, she was going to make sure that it changed. And when I spoke to Carol that night, she had tears in her eyes and said that she had never wanted to replace Jade's mother, but she had always wanted to feel like she was really a part of the family and not just my wife, and it was finally happening. I was overjoyed because two of my favorite people were finally getting along. And up until this moment, everything has been so surreal that it really feels like a dream. Jade could only spend a couple of weeks back home because she had to start college, but those few weeks were enough for us to reestablish a good relationship again. Even when she went off to college, both Carol and I went to drop her off and we had a tearful goodbye, which was pretty embarrassing for her later since a couple of people from her year saw her. Anyway, we get on FaceTime every once in a while and keep each other updated on our lives, and it's been great so far. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that it continues to stay this way, because after a long time, I feel like I'm truly happy and I feel like I'm walking on cloud 9, to be honest. I've even been speaking to her therapist and she has told me that she has shown a lot of progress in the past few weeks, and I'm really proud of her for that. It just goes to show that it's never too late to reconcile with people who you thought were lost, and this might not be the case for every family, but I know that I was right to not give up hope in my daughter's case, and now, we are as happy as any other family, and I couldn't have asked for more. Update 3. Hello. So a lot of you were asking me about what happened to Alice after my last update because I had not spoken about her or even mentioned her. Well, that was intentional. I wanted to make sure that update was positive and did not include any of the negativity on purpose. But since you guys seem to want to know, she is not part of the family anymore. And this time, I think it's pretty permanent. After Jade came back home and told us how Alice had been the one to turn her against our family and manipulated her into believing that I was against her and she needed to stand up to me, I told my in-laws, her parents, all about it. We found out that she was really putting herself in a risky position by doing this since she was heavily reliant on her parents for money. So after the fiasco with my daughter, my in-laws decided to cut Alice off and told her that they would not be writing her any checks anymore. She got pissed off and brought up how it was their fault that she did not have a well-paying job because they were not able to send her to college on time, and I think that's ridiculous because I know plenty of people who have not even been to college but still lead a respectable life and don't have to count on their parents. I think it has more to do with the fact that she is lazy and doesn't want to do anything that involves any amount of hard work to improve her situation. So I don't think she has anybody to blame but herself, no matter how hard she tries to make it seem like it was her parents' fault that she ended up like this. My ex had never been the golden child, like she insists. Both of them had been treated pretty equally, and I can vouch for that. But she literally always wants to victimize herself and act like everything that has happened to her is somebody else's fault. Anyway, she has been cut off by her family now, and the only way she can survive on her own is if she decides to step up and work hard. I don't even understand why she thought it was a good idea to try and turn my daughter against me when she was still dependent on her family for financial support. It was a stupid decision on her part, and now she's going to have to suffer the consequences of doing that. I'm just lucky that she has no access to me, so she can't bother me and try to guilt trip me or blame me for what has happened. Because I'm sure that if she had a way, she would definitely go all out and try to make me look like the bad guy. I'm surprised that she hasn't even tried to put up a post or whatever yet, but I guess she's gonna hold out on that since she is still trying to plead with my in-laws and get them to go back to supporting her. But they have made up their minds and have said that she's old enough now. If she still doesn't know how to take care of herself, then it's not their problem anymore. I think that's the right and at this point, pretty much the only way to deal with her. Now, talking about my family, things have been great as I mentioned in my last update. That was just a week ago, and this weekend, Jade came back home 3 days back and said that she wanted to take a road trip with us. It was very impulsive and very out of the blue, and initially, we were kind of skeptical about it, but after giving it some thought, we decided to finally go. Because life is short, we need to make the most of the time that we have, and Jade has expressed interest in going out somewhere with us after ages, and we really wanted to bond. She said that she was sick of speaking to us on the phone and she just wanted to hang out with us for some time because she was getting kind of lonely in college. Her roommate was away for a few days, spending time with her family, so she wanted to spend some time with us as well. So we left last morning, and after a 6-hour drive, we are finally at the beach. Everything was pretty last minute, but we managed to find a good room in a hotel, and we're going to spend the next 2 days in the water, and then we're going back home, and she's gonna go back to college. She's gonna miss a few days of college, but she doesn't even seem to care about that because she's just so happy to be here with us. This morning, when we were at the beach, I saw Jade and Carol having the time of their lives in the water, and they were splashing each other and laughing like crazy. I can't even tell you guys how happy it made me feel. I felt like I was finally content, and, I can't explain it, there was a warm glowy feeling in my chest, and then I joined them and we had fun together as a family. In about half an hour, we are going to go out shopping and then we're gonna go for dinner. Life is pretty amazing right now, and I just want to freeze this moment in time and stay right here forever. I know that I can't do that, and we're gonna have to go back to a normal life in a few days, but for now, I just want to pretend like this is something that we can live in forever, and yeah, I'm just very happy. No complaints anymore, ha ha.